Morning, folks. Welcome to Corvette Talk with Scags. You know, no conversation about Corvette racing is complete until you talk about the L88. At the time, Chevrolet and General Motors had plenty of money. New vehicle sales were through the roof. There was more than enough cash to make prototypes and concepts like you've seen in my past videos, and plenty of money left over to do the research and development for some very interesting motors and powerful motors. 1965 had the 327, 360 horsepower fuel injected small block. 1966 had the 425 horsepower 396 big block. 67, 68, and 69 had the tri-carbureted 435 horsepower L71 427. 69 had the ZL1, 70, 71, and 72 had the LT1, 71 had the LS6, and yes, 67, 68, and 69 had the L88. The L88 was really a race car, and Chevrolet really did what they could to make sure that this vehicle ended up in the hands of competent racing teams with certified drivers and not in the hands of the general public. We're going to see plenty of evidence of that as we go through our video. So for now, let's jump into L88s. These things are awesome. Okay, here we go, folks. Let's start, like last week, let's start at the beginning. Here is L88 number 1. This is the first one right here. And this was owned by a GM engineer, Bill Tower. In 1967, they weren't street legal. They had no smog devices. So they weren't legal for the street. They had to go right to the racetrack. If we turn the page here, if you could kind of possibly see that this car has an L88 on the hood there. And then if I turn the page here, you got that? Yeah, nice. And then if I turn the page here, you can see that it has L88 on the valve cover. That was removed. This is the only one that got it. So like I was saying, 67 wasn't street legal. 68 and 69 was not intended for road use. Here's are just some figures about the L88. The RPM was 1,000 RPMs. Okay, so that's what that's what you had to deal with. The 1,000 RPM idle speed. If you got an automatic, 68 and 69, you can get an automatic on your L88. The idle speed was 2,000. Imagine trying to get that thing into gear. Max power came at 6,800 RPMs. My heavens. And advertised, it was at 430 horsepower. Reality was 560 horsepower. These were some of the things that Chevrolet tried to do to make sure that these things didn't end up in the hands of normal people. It's important that you remember that the L71 tri-carb 427 of 68, 69, of 67, 68, and 69 had 435 horsepower. So the advertised horsepower for the L88, they were trying to get people away from the L88 and into the L71. Here's a great picture of Zora Arkus-Duntov and Denny Davis. Guys wearing ties, monkeying around with L88s. Just a terrific picture. There's a standard L88. Let's go on here. I know I got quite a bit to cover, so we're gonna move right on. I'm gonna try to go quickly here. Okay, here was a regular L88. Not all of them were race cars. Here's a standard one. This is what they look like. Notice how there's no advertising. Nothing says L88. Nothing says that this thing has monstrous horsepower. There was this little label here. I think I have a better picture of that label that says that this was not for street use. That's okay. I have a better picture of it. So turning the pages, you can see that it's pretty standard looking. Okay, here's something that was very interesting. Although this was not intended for road use, and they really wanted these cars in the hand of racers, it had a regular production order. It had an RPO, which means that any Joe Blow can go in there and order one. If you were persuasive enough, I guess you could actually come out with an L88. But the thing that they tried to make, again, trying to steer people away from buying an L88 and buying maybe an L71. Okay, here's some interesting little tidbits for you. There was standard factory options that you had to pay for, okay? Mandatory. Now, I know the concept of mandatory and optional don't fit together here. Again, they were trying to get these things into the hands of racers. So the regular RPO was $947, okay? The cost of the car was probably $5,000, so that's a pretty significant amount. The 427 L88 had aluminum heads. You had to opt for the M22 rock crusher transmission. You had to opt for the F41 suspension. You had to get the K66 transistorized ignition. You had to get the J56 heavy duty brakes. You had to get the G81 posi. And this thing had 12 to 5 to 1 compression ratio. My teeth are chattering just thinking about it. Had an 850 Holly. And these are the things that you couldn't get with your L88. You couldn't get a radio, you couldn't get AC, you couldn't get a heater, you couldn't get a fan shroud, and you couldn't get a choke. Okay, so imagine trying to start that puppy up. Again, all things that Chevy was trying to do to get people away from the L88. So moving on. Now we got some interesting racing L88s here. Here is the James Garner L88. Yes, that James Garner. He had a race team, the James Garner race team. Very interesting. This had a Traco built L88. It was raced in period raced in period and at historics by Dick Goldstrand. So this was this one had some pretty cool names attached to it as well. So that's a picture of the James Garner L88 racing. Pretty cool vehicle. Let's turn the page on that one. Let's go over to here. Look at this puppy. Wow, check this thing out. This was the Filippinetti L88. So the L88 was starting to get some interest overseas. This was a French team. This car managed 191 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight. It won Le Mans and it won the French Drivers' Championship for this racing team. So this one's got some value as well. Very successful race car L88. Zora Arkastuntov himself made sure that he arranged a shipment to this team. Zora being a European and wanting to impress his European stablemates over there, made sure the French team got the baddest ass L88 around. So moving on from there, let's go over to here. Let's see what we have in here. Oh, L88 Rumble at Amelia Island. This is a very cool L88 here. So I'm going to give you a little L88 factoid. 216 L88s were built from 67 to 69. Apparently the tires were the weak link. And a couple of tire makers actually made tires specifically for the L88. For this one, it was the BF Goodrich. You can see it's got the BF Goodrich insignias on it. So BF Goodrich made a specific tire for the L88, and I guess that's all part of the problem. Turning the page here, this must have been quite a show. Boy, you guys down south get all the luck. More L88s. L88 there. Here's a beautiful 67 L88. A very winning one. Put up some really good numbers. Beautiful L88 there. So as you could see, Chevrolet was successful on most instances of getting these things out the door and into the hands of racers, as opposed to into the hands of any Joe Blow. Another beautiful one there. Here's the BFG special tire one. This is the Rebel L88. I got some pictures of that one coming up. Okay, moving right along. How about the Owens Corning L88? Navigated by Tony DiLorenzo, great racing team. They bought two. Why buy one when you got the money for two? They hacked off the top of the other one. What is with Sawzalls and L88s and Grand Sports? I don't know. But they hacked the top off of one of them. And they were both very 22 victories. They won every race they entered from 69 to 71. The Owens Corning L88. Holy cow, folks. That is no joke. So I guess these L88s paid for themselves. Look at these fantastic pictures. In period. Beautiful L88 motor. That is no joke. That is a handsome car as well as a winning car. Okay, got a couple more shots here. Oof. Leading the pack. Look at some of the vehicles behind it. You got a Lola, you got a Ferrari. That must have been one hell of an interesting race. So at the time, these were just used race cars. But as time went by, these used race cars became very valuable. And I would say that most L88s in existence have been restored. Beautiful, huh? Moving on from there. We have this one's got all kinds of great names associated with it. This is the Sunray DX Racer, never titled, never registered. The Sunray DX was Yanko prepared, Don Yanko. He had a Chevrolet dealership, and like Nicky Chevrolet and Baldwin Chevrolet, they did a lot of race prep and a lot of race representation. This was a Copo car. Okay, so someone had to know someone to get this puppy. It had a Class 1 at Sebring. This car participated in the Buyer's Key Pass program, another program sort of like Copo that got this thing super lightweight with all kinds of special goodies. Kevin McKay is the owner and the restorer. I'd mentioned Kevin before. He finds these things in barns and whatever and does the restoration on them. This one had a 40-gallon fuel tank. So another beauty. See, we got a couple more pictures of the Sunray DX Racer. Oh, baby. That's another beauty. Yanko tune. Boy, talk about the names associated with this one. So as I mentioned at the beginning there, that was the first, that Bill Tower L88, that 67, that was the first L88 available to the public. Roger Penske actually got hold of a L88 motor, for a special gift from Zora Duntov that he put into a 66 Corvette. I'll do a special on that one sometime down the line. Oh my. Let's get to that one in a second. Oops, sorry. There's the Rebel L88. This thing is no joke either. This one won Daytona and Sebring. It's one of 4 lightweight L88s. This one had the trunk option, which I talked about last week. Had an oil cooler, headlight covers, headers, magnesium wheels, all stuffed in the back area there. So as you can see, these things put up the class wins, no joke. Turn the page here so you can get a couple more images of this beauty. My heavens, look at that. Stunningly cool car. So you get the idea that most L88s did end up with their intended purpose on the racetrack. Let's see if I got another picture of the Rebel L88. This is a very interesting car. I know a couple of videos ago, I had mentioned that there were 2 yellow ones made. The famous one is the yellow one with the black stripe. Well, this is the other one. And this guy is the original owner, which makes it even more valuable. This one is 100 pounds lighter than the regular L88. It's one of 2. So to make this one lighter, like I mentioned in the other video, was that the L88 motor didn't just have aluminum heads. This one had an aluminum block as well. So this car is no joke. The owner was a hot shoe. He was a racer, and he took it to the track. And from what I understand, he did. This one's got the automatic, so oh my God. Started up without a choke, without a fan shroud. I don't know, man. And it's immediately at 2,000 RPMs. What do you got to do to get it in gear? I don't know. A lot of fun. Beautiful car. So there it is, folks. All lined up. L88's totally cool. Nifty, huh? Folks, hopefully you enjoyed my video on the L88. A very special car when Chevrolet had bundles of money. L88s are fun. You really had to really want one, because if you went into a Chevrolet dealer and said, "I'd like an L88," they would sit you down and they would try to steer you towards the L71, which was the 435 horsepower L88. They put all kinds of signs saying that this thing had to take 103 octane fuel to try to steer people away again. They didn't advertise it as having high horsepower. They didn't put any outside insignias on it. This was kind of a backdoor project to try to get into the hands of racers. Very interesting portion of Chevrolet Corvette history, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I think next week I might do a video on Grand Sports, but who knows? We'll check it out. Thank you again, folks. Thank you for watching Corvette Talk with Scags, and we'll see you next time.